Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días. Hello, good morning to everyone. I'm gonna switch to English since, you know, today we have a very special speaker, Bob Mraz, which is the Vice President of Sales and Marketing of TW Metals LLC. And today's webinar is gonna be innovations in aviation supply chain. So we're going to conduct the rest of the webinar in English. So thank you. Okay. Next week or so, we're going to be off a little bit of our webinar, since we're going to have some events. We're going to have a series of meetings here, FEMIA meetings here in Mexico City. So we're going to resume the webinars on March 30th. So thanks for your understanding, and you know, we will be back on March. The next webinar on March 13th will be conceptos básicos para tener un buen acabado en maquinados de 5 ejes. And the speaker will be Carlos Maya Cerrato, who's the Chief of Projects for HEMAC. If you want, you can actually subscribe with the QR code that is already on the screen, so that you can do it beforehand. Thank you. Okay. Just a quick word about FEMIA. FEMIA is a private nonprofit association founded in 2007 that groups the main companies on the aerospace industry in Mexico, that works in manufacture, maintenance, repair and overhaul, design and engineering, and other services. We have around 120 members in 14 states of Mexico, and our members are responsible for more than 80% of the aerospace export of Mexico. We collaborate with a lot of organizations, not only within Mexico, but outside of Mexico, that are in the aerospace business. Here you can see a collage of the logos of our members. You can identify some of very familiar logos, and the ones that you may not be able to identify are as very, very important as well, because they are part of the aerospace industry ecosystem in Mexico. Next one, you know, I have the opportunity to introduce the staff, FEMIA staff. Okay, first, we have René Espinosa, who's the chairman of the board. Also, we have Pamela Arellano, who's in charge of operations. Monica Vega, she's in charge of promotion. And Enrique Maldonado in charge of supply chain. Then we have Mariana Gonzalez, who's also responsible for membership services, and Marta Ortuño, who's basically direction assistant. And myself, Luis Cano, I'm actually the CEO of the company, of the organization. Also, just to let you know that at the end of the presentation of today's speaker, we're going to have a Q&A session. If you have any comment, any question about the presentation that our speaker is doing, please do it on the chat, and we will be moderating a Q&A session after our speaker finishes his presentation. Okay. Well, now I'm going to introduce Bob Mraz. His current responsibilities include the strategic planning and deployment of global aerospace, commercial, government sales, and marketing programs that drive profitable growth consistent with company objectives of TW Metals. In this role, Mr. Mraz has responsibility for the marketing services department, e-commerce strategy, core products development, globalization, integration of customer supply chain initiatives, call centers, government sales, aerospace fabrications, and key strategic business units. Developing, implementing, and optimizing an effective sales process, tools, and metrics is a core responsibility for Mr. Mraz. Coordinating over 120 account managers, several business units, and integrated call centers, Mr. Mraz oversees strategic deployment of programs designed to provide superior customer satisfaction and responsiveness. Mr. Mraz is active in a numerous trade organizations, including the Metal Service Center in Industry, MSCI, Aerospace Industry Association, IAI, National Defense Industrial Association, NDIA, Commerce Department District Export Council, DEC, Experimental Aircraft Association, EAA, Aerospace Industry Trade Advisory Committee, ITAC, International Helicopter Society, AHS, and past Vice President and Board Member of the Suppliers Excellence Alliance, SCE. A recent finalist for the prestigious TV Award sponsored by Selling Power magazine, Mr. Mraz was named as one of the top 3 global sales leaders in this decade. As a contributing author for Aspetor Books with Managing Marketing Team in 2006, he's also a frequent speaker at industry events and contributor to many magazine and periodicals. Mr. Mraz is acknowledged as an industry leader in the specialty metals and global aerospace and commercial markets. So, with no further ado, please, Bob, welcome. This is, FEMIA is always your house. Mi casa es tu casa. So please, let's start with Bob, and you can actually share your presentation right now. Thank you for collaborating with us, Bob.
Thank you. Well, primero que nada, voy a comenzar yo. Me presento. Mi nombre es Evelia Meneses. Soy parte del equipo de TW Metals de México. Y muchísimas gracias a la FEMIA en primer lugar por este espacio, gracias por la invitación a participar en este webinar, es para nosotros un honor. Y pues el día de hoy tenemos un tema muy interesante, como ya lo mencionaron, lo va a estar impartiendo mi compañero Bob Mraz. Y antes que nada, voy a comenzar yo a darles una pequeña introducción y antes de comenzar, un pequeño disclaimer. Toda la información que aquí hemos recabado para ustedes es información actualizada al momento que realizamos la investigación. Sin embargo, como ustedes saben, la situación está muy cambiante en la actualidad, por lo tanto, los datos pueden haber también cambiado. Esa es la agenda que tenemos para el día de hoy. Primero vamos a hacer un pequeño overview de quiénes somos y qué es lo que hacemos. Esa primera parte la haré yo en español para que nuestra audiencia también pueda entenderlo. Y posteriormente voy a pasar los micrófonos a mi compañero Bob Maraz. Esta parte será en inglés. Y los temas que vamos a incluir en esta plática incluyen the current aerospace supply chain, the need for innovation, how will it work, why does it work, benefits for all stakeholders, y finalmente haremos un breve resumen de este tema. Bueno, pues TW Metals es una empresa norteamericana con más de 120 años de experiencia en la distribución de aceros especiales. Somos una empresa privada perteneciente a un grupo de empresas llamada O'Neill Industries, que es privadas, un grupo de empresas privadas cuyos dueños son una familia, la familia O'Neill. Sin embargo, somos una empresa muy grande con presencia a nivel mundial, con más de 39 bodegas alrededor del mundo, 800 millones de dólares en ventas, 78,000 ítems aproximadamente en stock, y atendemos diferentes industrias. Sin embargo, tenemos una presencia muy grande en la industria aeroespacial, como ustedes pueden ver en el primer chart. También atendemos otro tipo de industrias como la industria de oil and gas, la industria de dispositivos médicos, de maquinaria pesada, de fabricación, entre otras. Distribuimos diferentes productos que van desde tubos, tubería, barras, placas, barras sólidas, barras huecas, todo lo que son fittings, extrusiones, entre otros, en diferentes tipos de aleaciones, como aleaciones base níquel, aceros inoxidables, algunas aleaciones especiales de carbono, aluminio, titanio, entre otras. Además, ofrecemos procesos adicionales a estos productos que van desde corte, maquinado, ensamble, tratamientos térmicos. Unos son realizados en casa y otros son realizados a través de nuestros socios comerciales también. Como les comentaba, tenemos presencia a nivel mundial. Las principales bodegas están ubicadas en Estados Unidos, estratégicamente cerca de nuestros principales clientes. Y también tenemos presencia en Europa, en Inglaterra, en Francia, en Italia, en Polonia. En Asia estamos ubicados en Israel, en la India, en China, y nuestra bodega que se abrió también recientemente, que está en Singapur. Olvidé también mencionar que tenemos presencia en Japón. Y desde luego, desde hace ya 6 años tenemos presencia en México, en la ciudad de Puebla. Estamos también estratégicamente ubicados para tener acceso a la Ciudad de México, a Veracruz, al puerto de Veracruz, a Tlaxcala, y muy bien conectados también para salir al Arco Norte. Nuestra bodega tiene aproximadamente 1,364 metros cuadrados y tenemos suficiente espacio también para crecer en caso de que nuestros clientes lo necesiten. Somos una empresa que se preocupa mucho por las necesidades también de nuestros clientes. Siempre los escuchamos y somos muy flexibles en la manera de hacer negocios. Podemos vender desde un pedazo de barra o de placa y ponérselos en la frontera para que nuestros clientes puedan importarlo, o podemos también hacer contratos que van desde contratos de mantener en inventario los productos que se requieren, o incluso contratos de consignación, ¿no? Bueno, y como las imágenes hablan más que 1000 palabras, me gustaría compartir con ustedes este video. Espero que se escuche.
What makes a company? Is it the equipment, the location, the years of experience? At TW Metals, it starts with people. Hard-working, honest people that form a family dedicated to a quality job for you, for your customers.
Our customers are really looking for a quality product that is a good value and is delivered on time. We really partner with our customers. We understand what their requirements are, what their needs are, and based off of that knowledge that we get from them, we're able to customize a supply chain that's specific to their needs.
So really at TW Metals, we try to separate ourselves from our competition by really digging under the hood, trying to understand what our customer issues are. We want to be able to help them get to market quicker. We want to act as a extension of their manufacturing process. They know that we bend over backwards for them.
We try to embed ourselves into the customer's process flow. We try to make their life as easy as possible, reliability of delivery, quality, and just generally making their purchasing experience the best it could be.
They call us because we're considered the experts in our field. And a lot of them call me because I've been here forever. And when they don't know where to get an item or whether an item is commercially available, they'll tend to call here.
We supply the best specialty metals with really an unending commitment to quality. We are a market leader in tubular products, in addition to the bar and flat products and extrusions that we provide. We have a global footprint. We have 30 different locations throughout the world. So with that kind of a reach, we're really able to supply our customers anywhere.
Having everybody from our receiving to our shipping department involved in almost in every order is really what separates us from everybody else. We really take a tremendous amount of pride in everything we do, and I think that once everybody is engaged into the process, that's what makes the true difference.
We have not only a quick response team, QRT, customers can call in, they can go on our website.
There's a million different ways for our customers to get in touch with us.
We have a customer portal. On the portal, they can look at their existing orders. They can look at past orders.
They can place orders on there. They can see their inventory. Anything and everything that they would need to do, they can look up. It's all on there and easy access.
24/7, you can send your inquiries through the web, and the next business day, we'll get an answer for you.
Paperless warehouse has really evolved our business. When our customers see the biggest difference in terms of our next-gen system, just by the fact that our guys have more visibility right in front of their face, instead of having just a paper, they're going to have it handheld. Once that customer has a question, sales can immediately send a message with an actual status of that order. The quality really has been impacted by this new system we have, because we have all these extra points of inspection before the order hits our dock to be ready to ship.
It is an ever-changing environment. We are adapting and growing and learning. The business is evolving. And I once heard that if the change of pace outside of your company is greater than the change of pace inside the company, you're really falling behind. The thing I like about TW is we're not falling behind. We're leading in so many different areas.
Since 2005, we have been owned by the U.S.'s largest family-owned group of service centers, O'Neill Industries. One of the benefits is we now have a broader reach of products and services that we can offer to our customers as a one-stop shop, as one point of contact.
We're a family-owned company, and it shows. Not only we pull together as a team the way a family does, but the benefit as a customer is that when you're a customer of TW Metals, you become part of the family.
We support each other. From a customer standpoint, we have multiple employees that work together. It's a seamless transaction. It just ultimately it benefits that customer because they know that they're going to be able to depend on TW Metals and not just depend on one person at TW Metals.
Really, we look at our whole family here as a team that really looks at every order and every customer as if it was coming to us.
We're taking care of them. When they place their order with TW Metals, they know it's going to be handled efficiently, expeditiously. We're going to give them a fair price, and whatever we tell them, they can count on it, take to the bank.
We have the most dedicated, most experienced, most knowledgeable workforce out there. The people here are just phenomenal. They're phenomenal to work with, they're professional, and we always work as a team. And the important thing of working as a team is how we bring that teamwork to our customers, whether it's sales and finance and operations all working together to make sure that the customer gets the absolute best service, they get the best supply chain solution that's really geared towards them. That's really what's important.
Know-how, people, the latest technology, a family of professionals, everything you need, specialty jobs and custom manufacturing at any scale. At TW Metals, we're here for you.
Okay, so now I'm going to turn the mics to my partner, Bob Moraz. I hope you enjoy this webinar. Go ahead, Bob.
Amelia, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. An excellent job as always. And I'd like to start by thanking the organizers for allowing us to spend this time with you. And of course, the members as well for participating. And we hope that we're able to give you some information that provides some value in your job and in your profession. I would like to say for the record that I actually speak Spanish. I took 7 years of Spanish, and I am married to a beautiful woman from Santiago de Chile. Now, she told me very recently, I have never said one word correctly in Spanish, that my pronunciation is horrible, but I want to assure you, being married to a Latin American woman, I can listen to Spanish and understand every word she says. And my favorite saying is, "Sí, mi amor." So I am attuned to a lot of what Velia told us. I'll be talking today about the supply chain. Velia, please, next slide. The supply chain is a topic I know that everyone on this call is absolutely familiar with. Before I begin this, I want to make a couple of acknowledgments. What we'll be looking at, and what I don't think that we don't think enough about, certainly I don't think enough about, is how really good we are as an industry and as a supply chain and as a group of companies and partners. We can take aluminum bauxite, titanium sponge, plastics, phenolics, and a variety of materials and turn it into the fascinating machines that take billions of people, millions of miles, safer, faster, and more efficient than any other form of transportation. So the first acknowledgement is we're really proud of the business that we're in. We and the people on this call really deserve a tremendous amount of credit for turning all of that on the left-hand side of the screen to those fantastic machines. Amelia? I just want to make sure that our terminology is the same. And as I told Amelia as we were running through this, I would bet that every person on this call could give a presentation about the supply chain. And I suspect many of them could do it better than I could. But I do want to give you a perspective. We, as TW Metals, we're a tier 5. We're at the bottom of the food chain, as you see there. Now, I've heard things flow downhill, and that certainly is no different in the supply chain. So what I've done, just to make sure that we understand where we fit in the chain and where you fit, I've just taken a second or two to map out what it is that we do. We supply the raw materials. These raw materials, as you saw, are tubes, they're plates, they're sheets, they're aerospace materials certified for both commercial and military. We ship to over 25,000 customers. A lot of our product goes up to a tier 4. A tier 4 makes parts. and they oftentimes sell them to a tier 3 who takes the parts and integrates them into a bigger component, something that has a purpose. It does something. They're typically sold or shipped to a tier 2 who makes a system, an oxygen system, a landing gear. And then ultimately it goes up to the tier 1 who does the assemblies and does the final fit and then certifies the plane and away it flies. So off to the right, you can see there what is the progression of value added that starts off from the very bottom, raw materials, right up to those beautiful finished machines. And all of us on this call are somewhere embedded in this system. And in fact, although it looks like a very organized system with clear lines in between, I think we all know that probably each one of the companies participates to varying degrees in all of the different segments. Avilia, talk about the supply chain, and you'll understand this as well as anyone. It is incredibly complicated when you step back and think about it. The machines that are being built have tens of thousands, if not millions of parts. As a matter of fact, I had an engineer from a very large airframe manufacturer tell me that an airplane is no more than 3 million parts flying in a perfect formation. So they look at it at the part level, which is in fact exactly what it is. And not only is it complicated, but it's universal, global, because of offsets and because of technology transfers. All parts from almost all planes are made everywhere by tens of thousands of suppliers. And I'm sure you're very aware of that. You're probably using a global supply chain. You're probably part of a global supply chain. And I suspect you may be competing against some vendors in that global supply chain. But the objective of this montage of pictures is just to reinforce that the airframes and the engines, extremely complicated global supply chains, where quality materials and certifications and multiple steps in between the time it's purchased and the time it's put on the plane have to happen, and they have to happen in the right sequence and in unison, and it has to be organized and coordinated, the supply chain. The final comment I'd make is if you look at the picture in the lower right-hand corner, those planes, that is the 737 MAX assembly center. And they'll tell you, the manufacturer Boeing will tell you, they can make a plane in 8 days and 8 or 9 days. And that's true, they can assemble it. But if they want to get the raw material delivered into the supply chain on time, someone has to tell us at the raw material level at least 18 to 24 months in advance. So it takes 9 days to put it together. It takes years to get the parts in the right place to put it together. And we're all a part of that on that call. And once again, something to be very proud of, because although it works sometimes very seamlessly, it does have from time to time its challenges. Avilia, here is just something I put together just to make sure that we all have the same shared vision of what we're talking about. At the topmost level, the assembly of the plane is what we tend to think of as the final journey in the supply chain. But when you look at each individual part in the supply chain, they all have their own supply chain. So this particular titanium nut, we tried to track what it took to become a titanium nut certified to be used in aerospace use. As you can see, there were at least 14 companies that in one way or another either manufacture, melt it, machined, test it, coat it, or in some way aided to the manufacture of that. In that manufacture, it went through 5 different countries. Now, it just so happens 2 of those countries are embroiled right now in a horrible conflict, and that didn't make anything easier. As far as we could determine, that one component traveled almost 18,000 miles to become the piece of equipment it is. It went back and forth across the globe with 14 time zones. And you can see it is just a simple titanium nut, yet it has been certified and tested, and it takes quite a bit of effort to get it made. So that is just one of the 6 million parts that'll go on a large twin aisle jet. Avilia? So what I hope I was able to relay, and something that you live with every day, is that this is a complex system, yet it works fairly well. But what I'm going to talk about now is that the system itself is being tested and stressed, and it always has been, but now it's being tested and stressed in a way we haven't seen, well, at least I haven't seen in my career, and we've been in business 120 years, and my boss continually tells me I was the first employee, which is not true, but I've been in business a long time. So Avilia, let's take a look at some of these stresses on the supply chain. Now, once again, everybody on this call is a professional. You see these things, you know these things, but as I was putting this together, I didn't realize how much stress is being added to our supply chain systems. What you can see here is over the course of time from March last year to February this year, the lead time in weeks from when we, as a raw material distributor, order the material till the time it eventually arrives on our dock. So in the first case, where you see a circled number 16 in the first column, that would indicate 16 weeks from when we ordered it to when we actually got it. Now, to be quite honest with you, all of our mills on average are only 13% on-time delivery, 13% on-time delivery. So that 16 weeks is a fond hope, but we are seeing now even that being degraded. But now when you look over to the far right, you can see that what was 16 weeks is now stretched out significantly further. So now it isn't just a matter of waiting 16 weeks, it's a matter of waiting twice as long or more. I'd ask you to look at some of those. And when you look at the very last one under bar stainless alloy, which is something I'm sure people on this group either machine or in some way surface treat, it used to be 12 to 14 weeks. We could place an order and we could plan, and you could, when you had emergency demands or drop-ins, we could get material. If we didn't have it, we could get it fairly quickly. Now we need 1 year from the time you say I'm out of stock to the time the mill can deliver it to us. Now, luckily, ourselves and our competitors in the supply chain have a fair amount of inventory. So it doesn't take a year for everything you want. But as you look at it, you can see week over week and month over month how this is stretched out. I'm happy to say that it looks as though we've reached as bad as it can get. So at least we know how bad it is. So this is the products that you generally need to make the parts that you move through your supply chain. Avilia? Now, that's the first stress to what is already a complicated process. The second one is price increases and scarcity of products. Now, I have to tell you, we put this together a few weeks ago, this presentation, and we had to change it because things changed so dramatically. And then we had to change it again. And as late as this morning, we were in the process of putting in new data because, as you know, there have been some unbelievable changes in the marketplace. Some on nickel-bearing alloys will have a tremendous effect on lead times and prices. But here is the first thing that we look at is what is the cost of natural gas, which is so critical to almost every stage of the supply chain. As you can see, in the commercial sector and in the industrial sector, it is skyrocketing. And this is going to ultimately have a big impact on the cost, but not only that, on the lead time, because as the cost goes up, more orders are placed, lead times go out, and it's kind of a snowball effect that continues to exacerbate what was the problem. Next one, please, Avilia. Thank you. Well, this will speak for itself. The elements that you see there are critical to the products that you buy. There's always been spikes and there's always been drops, but we're seeing something we haven't seen. And if you go back to January of 2005, we haven't seen anything like this. And once again, critical alloys, especially in the aerospace grade of aluminum. On the next slide, what we'll look at is the billet. As you all know, and I just want to make sure for those few people who weren't familiar with the term, the billet is essentially the starting point for many of the products that are made in aluminum. And it is typically been hovering at about $1 US, a pound more or less, and sometimes less, sometimes more. And then they add a thing called a Midwest spot, which is a couple pennies to offset certain elements. But now throw all that out the door. The price of billet is off the charts, and the lead times are such that mills are not accepting, some mills for some products are not accepting additional orders beyond what they have this year. They're booked out for the year. And the prices we've seen 6 price increases last year, depending on the commodity. And that's not going to stop in the short run. Avilia? Titanium. Well, while titanium, titanium, I have to say, relative to the other alloys, although it has increased, has had a pretty interesting state of affairs. We saw a tremendous drop in the summer, a couple summers ago, and then we saw it climb its way back. While lead times are out and the prices are up, it isn't nearly as volatile as some of the other elements that we've seen. And finally, we take a look at the nickel and nickel-bearing alloys. And I'm sure if you're in the metals business or in the machining business or the parts business, you understand what happened here. The price had risen so much, so fast, they actually stopped trading. Well, they recently reopened and the price didn't really go down very much. So it is unclear where this is going. Part of the problem was a financial issue on a hedge that was inappropriate, or at least didn't work out as they thought. And then the other was LME stocks are now at historical lows, meaning that there's a scarcity of nickel. And not the least of this is that the electrification cars and the other modes of transportation that are beginning to rely more on batteries and electrification are really challenging the supply chain to deliver these products. Avilia? Well, not only are prices going up, lead times going out, and elements exploding, once they're made, they're hard to get off the dock. I'm sure we had all heard how difficult it was and how many ships were waiting to be offloaded. Well, in fact, that got better. And in fact, it's now gotten worse. And not only are there log jams at the ports. A year ago, if you were a truck driver in the United States with a drive and you drove for a flatbed, you had approximately 11 loads waiting to be picked up. Now, that's in the 90s. Every driver can take any one of 90 loads and move it to the next destination. That's the type of constraints we're facing. Amelia? Well, I'm getting to the part where things get better, and I'm sure at this point, you're hoping I get there quickly. Could you just, one more click there, Amelia? What you see here, and this was fun, I went to Google supply chains, aerospace supply chains, and I have to tell you, there is no shortage of improvements in the aerospace supply chain. And I mean that. There has been new technologies, new processes, new ways of looking at things. So it isn't though our industry has been sitting on its hands and waiting for something to happen. We've really been trying to prove through continuous improvement the process of supply chains, all supply chains. But there's an issue. And the issue is this, as you can see, it's still a chain. Something can happen in one link and the rest of the links may or may not know it. So what could go wrong with what I've been talking about? Complex global supply chains, thousands and thousands of manufacturers making millions of parts for global companies, prices increasing, elements are scarce. We're looking at logistics issues we've never seen before, supply chains that worked well under some conditions, but now are being strained. What else could go wrong? Well, a global conflict. Now, Russia and titanium are synonymous, although there are 2.7 million tons of titanium used in all industries, not just aerospace. Luckily, Russia only accounts for about 10% of that. It really is Indonesia that does the majority of titanium sponge mining. And so while this is going to be a real issue, and it didn't help us in our supply chain efficiency, it isn't necessarily the type of showstopper that some people think it is. Amelia, I'd like to talk specifically about what all this means in an actual case study. And there's some lessons learned from it, and it has to do with something that happened to us as a company and our supply chain. We were notified by an airframe manufacturer that they were going to be using a new type of titanium, and this goes back years, in the empennage section of the plane where they have the APU, auxiliary power unit. And so we, as that's an A, B, frame B shows us and what we had to supply, and that was tubing. Now, the rest of our supply chain had to supply flanges, fixtures, brackets, spools, weld wire, all of the things that are needed to make this part. Something went wrong, and we weren't getting the orders we wanted. Parts weren't being delivered. There was a real issue, and it was affecting deliveries of the plane. Amelia, if you could hit it one time, please. What we saw was a small little crack in the supply chain, as you can see, but the rest of the chain was still there, but we just didn't know that there was a weakness in the chain. And then one more, Amelia, the chain itself, Amelia, one more click, please. The chain itself just broke apart. That particular incident cost us $4 million. And it was because of a small oversight in the supply chain that totally destroyed our ability and our supply chain's ability to deliver the parts on time. And let me take you back to the meeting. Amelia, next, please. Let me take you back to the meeting of what happened. And I'll bet that many of you have been in this kind of meeting when something's not exactly going right. The airframer engine builder brings everybody together And the manager will start off saying something like, your late deliveries are killing us. Now, immediately, the fabricator will say, hey, don't blame me, I can't get the raw material. Now, after he says that, usually we'll hear another machine shop or fabricator say, hey, me too, I don't have raw material. And then inevitably we hear it again, yes, I can't get the raw material. Well, now I'm sitting at this table as well. And so I say, and by the way, I picked out the best looking hair for everybody on that table for me, but I said, wait a minute, we had millions of dollars of exactly what we were told to buy so you could make your parts. That's what we said. So obviously they're not getting parts. Everyone says they can't get material. We have material. So the manager says from the airframe builder, hey, what's going on here? How is that possible? Well, and a true story, an engineer from the company pipes up and says, well, actually, we had an engineering change and we did flow it down to the purchasing group and supply chain. So I don't know what the problem is. Well, naturally, the person in the supply chain says, wait a minute, you didn't tell us that. We don't have any change. Well, then it's my turn. And there's not much we could do. We find ourselves with millions of dollars worth of material, no orders, no parts, and we find out that actually there was a change and we didn't know, nor did our partners. And it wasn't a matter that the flow down didn't work and print revisions weren't in place. It was just a timing matter, and it happens. Now, I want to repeat that we do, and all the people in the aerospace supply chain do an incredibly great job under complex situations. But sometimes we see issues evolve like this. Avilia, what could have saved the day for us? Well, if we look at the next slide, and this is something that if it was in place, our problem wouldn't have happened. If we all knew and had a shared distributed ledger, knowing what was going on everywhere, no matter how complicated the system was, if we could see changes across the entire supply chain when they happen and would have a chance to comment on it, we wouldn't have found out long after we had a problem that we had a problem that needed to be resolved in a hurry. So we just needed a change in the visibility. That's fine, Avilia. And luckily, Avilia, you can go to the next one. And the evolution of the blockchain. Next one, please, Avilia. Now, I know that you've seen a presentation from this organization on blockchains, and I can assure you this will not be a technical presentation. This is related to aviation supply chain. And I would bet that everyone on this call, in one way or another, is involved or impacted by the blockchain method of supply chain management. Now, you may not know it, but the scheduling you're getting, the demands, the emergent needs, the drop-ins, the schedule changes are being driven by blockchain, which, as you can see, is not only already embedded in the entire industry, but is going to grow dramatically. And you'll see why in a second or two. Avilia? So I'm going to take a second just to explain in conceptual terms, using common language, how it works for us in the aerospace supply chain. Consider the block as a container that holds a piece of information. And it is a piece of information. It could be anything. It's very popular in Bitcoin, but in other areas as well. Let's say that information is the alloy they want to use to build a part. Avilia? What they do is they put that information in a block. It gets its own unique identifier. It cannot be confused with another block. It's also linked in a sequential way. Block X is always followed by block Y. Block Z follows block Y. They can't be mixed up. They can't be exchanged. The things in the block can't be changed easily. So that's a little different than the supply chain, where something can break downstream, but you don't know it where you're at. So now, when the information is added, it's difficult to change. And if it is changed, an alert is sent out to all of the people who participate. So everyone involved in the blockchain sees every change as it's made. As a matter of fact, depending on the process, as these changes are being scanned, the system itself goes through what they call a proof of work, which analyzes if the changes will affect you at all. But the point is, everyone knows that if something is about to be changed or a block is about to be added, everyone would know what that is. Avilia? So the question is, if you have blocks of information that are linked together and be changed, could this have helped us with our $4 million problem? Avilia? And it would have worked like this. In block X, there is a document that says, hey, we're going to make this piece of we're going to make this product out of titanium with the designation 15333. That means in block Y, we're going to buy it. And that means in block Z, the subcontractors are going to make products from that. Now, Avilia, if that was changed, if the engineer went back and said, yeah, we're going to make that change in that block, like they did, and remember, the rest of the links to the change were unaware of it, this is what would happen, Avilia. All of the blocks that follow that would now be highlighted in a way that says, wait a minute, look at block X, things have changed. Now, do you accept the change? So everyone, number one, gets to see it as it happens because a change was made. And then through proof of work, you understand the change and do you accept the change? Now, that is conceptually how it works. So I don't want you to think that, this is a purely technical approach to it. It is the practical approach as it would have saved us in the first instance. So as you can see, and you can go right through, Avilia, it checks all of the things you need: complete visibility, transparency. It handles the most complex situations, and it doesn't matter how many stakeholders you have, everyone is equally engaged. Avilia? Key takeaways. Given the complexity of this industry, we're doing a fantastic job. Things are going to get more complex, undoubtedly. Little mistakes today will cause massive problems tomorrow. As an example, if we forgot to order something for a reason that was 12 weeks away a year ago, now it's a year away. That's hard to come back from. But yet, the elements and the concepts that are used in blockchain, even if we don't call it blockchain, can help us eliminate that problem, those problems, and bring more focus into the industry. And it's, as you can see from previous slides, it was already incorporated. We're already using it. We're benefiting from it. And many of us on this call will, if we're not already engaged, be engaged, and it'll result in a much better, tighter, focused supply chain with greater visibility. My final slide, Avilia. Now, I told you that my boss thinks I was the first employee. And this company is 120 years old. And you can see my live picture, but you see the picture that I use in presentations. Avelia says it's my high school picture. Thank you, Avelia. But I wanted to have just a little bit of fun and run a small contest. The question that I'm asking you is, based on what you see, what year did I start at the company? And it was a year. It was, I won't tell you what year, but I'd like you to estimate what it is. In that year that I started, you had a famous footballer, a Mexican footballer who was born in that year that I started. The #1 song was Volver, Volver. You see, my wife was right. I've never said one word in Spanish correctly. And you can see what the #1 movie in Mexico was the year I was born. If you'd like to, you see my email address there. If you could shoot me an email and just put the year that you think I started, then we'll send you, for the effort, a very nice TW Metals pen and pencil set for the effort, and also as a thank you for participating in this webinar. And we hope that in some small way, it makes your job easier and gave you some information you might be able to use. Avelia, how did I do?
You did great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for sharing all this experience you have. I hope everybody has enjoyed, and I hope this is useful for everybody too. Great job.
Thank you, Evelia. And I apologize for not introducing Evelia Meneses. Evelia is part of the TW Metals team here in Mexico. Gracias, thank you, Evelia. And Bob, it was an excellent presentation. We let the people know that we're opening our Q&A session right now. You can see Bob Mraz and Evelia's email there. So if you want to contact them directly, other than to answer the questions, that's very good, and we certainly do appreciate it. It was very interesting presentation.
2 p.m.
We have we're starting to see some questions here, some comments and some questions. We're seeing that in Buenaventura, the port does not receive any more containers. There's apparently, as you mentioned, not only a crisis on the raw material, but also on the logistics as well. So how do you think that that will interact specifically in our industry sector? And then again, our industry sector has another challenge, which is high mix and very low volume. And how do you think high mix and low volume can affect in this supply chain, materials, logistics plus logistics crisis that we are just facing?
Well, Luis, they're both excellent questions, and let me kind of take them one at a time. We are seeing, as an answer to the logistics problem, US-based companies bringing a tremendous amount of work back, machining work and surface treating and so on, back into the continent, back into Mexico, into the US, even into Canada. These supply chains, which are being stressed to the maximum with lower cost countries, the complexities of that and the risk and the delays and the problems have prompted many of our customers, and I could name 4 or 5 of them that you would be extremely familiar with, large OEM integrators, bringing material back. And our observation is that a significant amount of that work is going directly into Mexico. And I think that's going to continue. And I think we're going to see more and more of that happen, because eventually the logistics problem will be fixed. But the best way to fix it is to shorten the supply lines and put partner countries together like the US and Mexico. As far as the high volume or the high mix, low volume issue, look, that's the industry. The mills have minimums that are 10,000 pounds. Our customers want to make parts that weigh 2 kilos. So there's a disconnect there. And so logistically speaking, we're able, I think, to just optimize what we have in the supply chain. The mix volume problem is not new. It is inherent in this industry. And I think what we're seeing now is strategies such as just-in-time, Kanban, consignments. As a matter of fact, we opened up a very large consignment program in Tijuana. So instead of shipping 4 times a week, 1,000 pounds, we're shipping once a month, 10,000 pounds. So logistics become less expensive. And look, the metal costs as much money sitting on our shelf as it does on yours. So if you hold it and use it as you need it, everybody benefits. So the things like Kanban and especially consignments, we see growing. And you know, our two countries are perfectly aligned in this, where we can do that in Mexico, but in other countries we can't, simply because of the taxation and the duty issues that are involved.
Thank you, Bob. And then you mentioned, you know, Kanban and just in time. Jorge Aponte Gomez says, asks if just in time have ever worked, or if that was just an illusion.
Oh, well, that gets right to the point, doesn't it? It works, but it has to be very well thought through. Our largest customer places over 500,000 orders a year with us. The average price of that order is under $12, one order. Now, it would be impossible to do that unless the system was built specifically for that. So you need to have tremendous reliance on technology, electronic funds transfer, electronic order entry, and all of the things that make it automated, because those volumes are very much almost like automotive type of volumes. But yet, it is not an illusion. It does work well, but you have to start off with a clean sheet of paper, and you have to ask, how does it work? Where does it go? And then you have to make the commitment to be close together. I can't imagine that a long distance, just in time program would be very efficient. And one of the reasons we're in Mexico now is to be able to support things like consignment and just-in-time deliveries.
Very good. That's very good, Bob. I have Eduardo Solis from CPI. Bob, congratulations for your presentation. I do appreciate the support of TW Metals to the aerospace industry in Mexico. From my time at Eaton Aerospace, I enjoy Frank Ruggiero and your support. Hope TW Metals is capturing synergy opportunities between aerospace and medical devices industries in Mexico. As regards from Eduardo Solis, Bob.
Thank you.
We have another question, and this is a question. You know that the material cost of tier 3 or tier 4 that is actually manufacturing metal components or metal pieces into the aerospace industry is higher than 40%, the material cost. If you are entering the aerospace industry as a machining company, you know, what is your best way to get raw material at competitive prices? because usually what you get, the prices that you get to compete when you are starting are usually way higher than the ones that are already running or are already a client, I would say.
Well, thank you for that question. It's an excellent question. And there's really a couple ways to do it. One is, depending on who your customer is, the majority of all large aerospace customers have supply agreements with us and with our competitors. And these agreements today allow the supply chain to buy at the same price that the manufacturer buys at. So as an example, pick a company like a Bombardier or an Eaton or a Collins. They have global supply agreements. And the agreement is, whoever wants to buy this material, they're going to buy it at the price we negotiate. And the only difference would be if there's freight or special processes. So the first thing is, who are you doing work for? And do they have an agreement? And can you buy off that agreement? In which case, you're buying it at the world's best price. The second strategy, which is, this is something we see all the time by the absolute best machine shops. If they have business that is repeat type business, and they're going to be buying, 100 kilos every other month, they can set up an agreement and they can look at the total amount, 5,000 kilos for the next 2 years, and still buy 100 kilos a month. So you can negotiate what's called an LTA, a long-term agreement. And it's extremely simple. Here's the price. Here's what you want. You need 5,000 kilos. That's what we'll price it at. When do you want to take it? 100 kilos a month. That's how we'll deliver it. As long as we know what the total is, you get that total price, and then you take it as you need it. This allows us to go to the mill, get the best price and the commitment. It removes the risk from our relationship, and you don't have to buy 50 pounds at a time. You get the best price.
That's an excellent. What you mentioned on the first strategy is the combit price, right?
It could be conbid, but most, it would be Airbus offering a conbid. But beyond that, most major airframe companies, and I mentioned two of them, Eaton and Collins, they have global price agreements, not on every product, but on many products. So we tell them anyone who wants this material will pay the same price. The only difference might be freight or tariffs or details. And that way, all their global supply chain is on equal footing. And another great way to get a very low price is call Avilia. Avilia has the best prices in Mexico.
That's good. That's a good one. Very, very, very good. Well, I don't know if there's some more questions, and if there's more, you have Bob and Avilia information there. Please take a moment to take a note out of that. And we have one last question here from Alfonso Salas Cabrera. How do you support the medical device manufacturing industry in Mexico? They're wondering if Ms. Avilia could answer this question.
Well, right now, most of the business that we do here in Mexico, that is not the current contract that we have, that we support from Puebla, is managed from the US. So we have many customers down here in Mexico that are supported by our partners up in the US. And from there, we, some of them place specific orders and we ship the material to the border. And with some others, we have some agreements. But most of the business that we do here in Mexico is for the aerospace. But we're looking forward to, you know, open the door to other customers also here in Mexico.
Thank you, Belia. Thank you. Thank you. And well, as you know, time is we have time constraints on this, and let me tell you that it was a very, very informative and great session, a great webinar. So we certainly thank Bob Moraz and Evelia for their participation in this webinar, and also let them know that FEMIA is here to support you in any way possible. Okay. Also, just to let you remind you that next week we're not going to be having a webinar. We're going to be resuming our webinars on March 30th. And also make a little request to follow in our social media networks in Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and of course our mail. Thank you very much, Bob. It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you, Belia, for that as well. And and with no further things, we want to wish you a good day and an excellent rest of the week.